Hey, welcome everyone to the latest edition of the Affinity streaming podcast. I'm your host, Contrell. Today's movie is RRR 2002. Joining me today to discuss are the usuals, Riley and Sarah. How are you guys?
Hi.
Good.
Good. And today we have a special guest. Addie is the expert on this movie. How are you, Addie?
All right. No expert, but thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm really excited and happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us. All right, RRR. PG-13, which surprised me. Runtime of 3 hours and 7 minutes. A fictitious story about two legendary revolutionaries and their journey away from home before they started fighting for their country in the 1920s. RRR is currently streaming on Netflix. It has a 95% critics review on Rotten Tomatoes, a 94% audience. 7.0 on Film Affinity. And just to warn everyone, there are spoilers coming, so be prepared. And before we start, I'd ask you to follow us on our show socials, YouTube, Instagram, and
Hi. Apple
Facebook,
Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts, all Affinity streaming podcasts. Thanks a lot. All right, Sarah, why don't you go ahead and give us your initial reactions to this movie?
First of all, I like it a lot. Even it was like I thought 3 hours maybe would be too much, but I couldn't have enough of all the things that happened. Like I enjoy everything. Like the fighting scenes, they were like so long, but doesn't matter because it was beautiful. And all the dancing, the colors of the costumes, like the scenography, the choreography, like I was like so pleased to watch all like every minute of the movie. So and also the storyline was also like a little cheesy, but at the same time it worked. So I like it a lot. Like I'm amused to watch this. That I watch this. Yes.
Yeah, I also thought it was a fantastic movie. It was super well done. All of the filming, like the environments they used, everything was just like very visually good, audio good. Like it was very, very well done. I like the story a lot. I thought it was something new compared to things that we see like all the time recently. It was
The
like,
romance.
what is happening here? But it was so good. And like Sarah said, it had all the aspects. I was trying to think because I liked the movie so much. I was trying to think if there was anything I didn't like about it. And the only thing I could come up with was like maybe part of the message, which was like getting weapons for everyone. So like that was literally the only thing, but like it was a different period of time, so I kind of get it, but it was the only thing I could come up with that was like maybe a little negative, but it was an amazing movie.
Yeah.
Addie?
Well, I'm used to watching Indian movies, so 3 hours is not that long technically, because that's how most movies are. Because most Indian movies are multiple genres in one. So RRR kind of, I think, captures that essence of Indian cinema, where you have the romance, the action, I mean, obviously the violence, the fights are always going to be there, but also the emotional part of it, and it's a musical too. So it's something we normally expect from Indian movies, and this is no exception to that. But the movie, as you said, it's a fictitious story, but it's based off two real life revolutionaries. But the story is completely fictional at this point. But I think S.S. Rajmouli, who's the director, has done big movies like this before, but this may be one of his best recent ones that came out. So the movie is well received, and I like the storyline, though it is, like Sarah said, it's a little bit cheesy, but it's part of Indian movies, and I really enjoyed the way it was. I guess the right word would be dichotomy of things, because it's showing the two versions of what happened in India when the revolutionary wars were going on. There were violence and non-violence. There were two groups of people that followed two paths, and I think this is where they were showing that pacifists who didn't want to fight unless provoked, but at the same time the other people, their way to fight for independence was to fight violence with violence, sort of thing. They're more about protecting their people, and you can't fight guns with, I don't know, broomsticks, whatever, right? So it was almost like there were two categories of people who did that. So I think this captures a little bit of that, but at the end of the day, they are showing that it's not just the violence that will help you. There is a part of the bringing the change comes from more than just fighting with guns and weapons, but also internal emotion of people. You bring people on one stand with so many different ways. It doesn't always have to be violence, but it captures many things that actually happened in a very cinematic way, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
Beam
described to me.
existed, right? One second.
Sorry.
Beam existed, right? Like that.
Bean was there, and so was Aluri Sitaram Raju. They were real characters, but their paths never passed. Cross,
Ah, okay.
but they are real revolutionary people.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
described to me as if someone made a Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. made a action movie together where
That makes sense.
they fought
Yes.
people and made sense. So, Addie, you saw the movie. We all saw it on Netflix, and apparently that wasn't the original. I watched it dubbed, so and apparently it wasn't the original language. But
Yeah.
you actually saw it in a theater in India. Can you describe that experience for us?
So this is a Tollywood movie, not Bollywood. So it's a Telugu movie, which is my mother tongue as well. So I was in India when this movie came out, and I got to watch it in theater in its original language, which was Telugu.
Wow,
And
that's awesome.
Indian movies are fantastic. And when I watched this on Netflix recently at my house with a bunch of friends, but it never is the same. The
Of course.
translation doesn't
The
really
original.
work that well because these are sort of period pieces. So the literature or the language used, the prose used is very suitable for that period of time. And it comes with more literary thought versus the regular use of language. So we have two things called prakruti vikruti, like proper use of language versus more colloquial use. So
That's what
you
I thought. Like,
yeah.
one second. I thought like the English like dubbing, it wasn't like a little weak. It didn't feel like. I mean, I couldn't understand Hindi, but or the language there was like originally like
Telugu.
like done, but um, I feel like the English like there was like dubbing and also like the captions like didn't match at all, and I
Mhm.
felt like that was like not
Yeah,
well done. But I assume that the original version like is like the masterpiece.
yeah, it was exceptional because I think all the original language they build it to that, and it has a lot of literature associated with it, and the emotion that comes out with the original language is always not possible to capture when you dub it into a different language. But since I saw it in the original language, it's a very different feeling. And when you watch a movie of this scale in India, it's a whole nother experience because the entire theater, you're watching the movie as one being. Everybody's feeling the same thing. Everybody is excited at the same time. Everybody's crying at the same time. And you're rejoicing as if that is happening in your life and you're part of it. So the
Mhm.
experience was phenomenal. And this, again, RRR was such a giant movie and with larger than life everything in it. So people were, that's what cinema is supposed to do. It's supposed to take you out of your everyday life. You're supposed to feel something
Right.
extraordinary. And that's what happens when you watch it in a theater with a group of people that feel the same towards that movie. They understand the language, the emotions. You truly feel that emotion. It's the joy when something good happens, the pain. It was exceptional.
So, did you? Was there an extra hypeness for watching, your Indian heroes beat up on some white people? Because if it was like, from my perspective, and they were like beating up some KKK, I would have been cheering and jumping. Like, did you have an extra emotion at that part of the movie?
They're always villains, right? And British people in Indian cinema will always be villains. There's no exception to that. They will always, and we've had multiple movies were, Britishers at that point, anything that was in that period. And yeah, it's like happening now. I feel like I am beating them up and I'm so excited about it and happy about it. That emotion I don't think will ever go away. So yeah, we're all like, yeah, let's do this, let's beat them up. Yeah, this happens. And
Nice.
another 200 years later, we'll still feel that way. I'm not even gonna lie.
Nice.
Yeah,
Sarah and
I
Riley,
thought
what
that
were your yeah, go ahead. What were
hold
your
on. I thought
emotions?
the scene that was like impactful relating to this was when they went into like the British, I don't know, base or whatever they have, and they have up on the wall the world, and they had all like the British, like England's flag all over all these different countries. I'm like, geez, they like, I don't know, we're just like trying to take over everything. I was
Yeah.
like,
Right.
wow, like that was just an impactful image at that point.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, they did, right? Like all other people before them, the Alexander the Great, the Mongols, like conquering the world. But I think the most impactful colonialism or colonization, I'm missing some of the words, sorry, are Britishers, because that's the recent one that happened and the effects are still going on. But yeah, that was a very, very, to your point, it's like it kind of puts everything in perspective. Like this
Yeah.
actually happened, this is what it was.
We should mention the stars of this movie, N.T. Ramarao and Ram Charan. Uh,
Hmm.
is Ram was the one who's the most beautiful man in the world, right? Is that the guy?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And
I don't know about
correct.
that part, but
di-
these two
directed
are,
by S.S. Rajamouli, right?
yes, SS Rajmouli. His father was also into movies, and he started as a assistant director sort of thing. And then his big break, he started with some movies, but this kind of period pieces and this larger than life movie started with his movie Magadira. And Ramcharan was the star of that movie as well. And but NT Ramarao was the star in his movies in the very beginning. So it was like these two stars are currently in Tollywood movies, the Telugu movies. These are two really, I guess, popular stars right now. There are a few others, but these two stars are quite popular as well. So it was a good combination to have both of them in this movie. And their Rajmouli has worked with them before, so he knows what to expect, and they know what to expect. I think it was a good combination.
Is there
They
anybody
were
prettier than him?
amazing.
Definitely. I
There's
didn't
no
know
one
that, but
prettier than him
yes.
in India.
There are
I
a
can't.
lot of people much prettier. I have to send you some pictures.
What? We need to start watching more
Yeah,
Indian movies.
but
What
all
else?
of them,
Oh,
all
Indian movies. Too many pretty. I mean, we're 1.4 billion people now, apparently. So they're bound to be enough pretty people, right?
yes.
We should also mention Ray Stevens, who played Scott Buxton, who just recently passed away. Rest in peace. Ray played a good bad guy. But yeah, rest in peace. Got to mention him.
Yes.
I want to talk about my favorite scene. And then you guys can go on. But when he was attacking the party and he jumped out of the cage with all the animals and the two like
Oh my
flames,
god, this
I was
picture is
just like I was
amazing.
like cheering. I was like, "Yeah, get him!"
And do you want to see it, like, know a fun
So
fact of
so
that?
good.
Because those animals, the RRR filmmakers use the small robots to like cars to make those like animals like jump and go around. So they use those for making that scene like happen because of course it's like on computer. So that yeah, I was like thinking about like how they made that scene. So yeah, because it's very impressive. So yeah, that's a fun fact.
Do you guys have
One of
favorite scenes?
one of my favorite scenes was like right in the beginning, when the two of them are meeting and they save that boy.
Uh,
Like that to me, because like I'm not used to these types of movies, and it was a little crazy to start, but that entire sequence I was like, okay, this is what I'm in store for the next like 2.5 hours. But that whole sequence, they had it planned, they were like perfectly aligned, everything, the wrapping the flag around them to go through the fire. I was like, what is happening? That was like a definitely a favorite scene. There were a whole bunch, but that was a good
I
one.
mean, my favorite one. if you know me, it's the musical part. Like that choreo, that many people and all the competition between like first with the British people and then between those two, and then of course the most handsome guy had to like leave like the lead to the other one to get the girl. So that was
He was playing a
amazing. That
good
was
wingman.
amazing. Oh my god. And it was long. It's like, yes, I can, yes, just go continue like dancing. It was very entertaining.
Nice. Uh, so those scenes again, very used to things like that in Indian movies. But I think the key pivotal part of a scene of this movie for me is when that song happens where he's caught after that whole animal scene and everything. He's tied up and they're trying to make him kneel. That I think is my
Oh,
favorite scene of the movie because the whole story changes at that point. Is the most impactful scene. I mean, forget about the picturization and all of that stuff, but the entire turn until then, Ram Charan was the more worldly guy, more cool, and he had a purpose. And Bhim, who played by NTR, was this village kid who came to get his village, the little girl, and go home. That was his only purpose. But that scene changes the whole perspective of the movie. That you know,
yeah.
small things like that, somebody's pain, somebody's emotion. The song, basically, when you hear it in Telugu, you the words are very powerful. Basically it
Yeah.
says, if I kneel, I am not born of this mother earth.
Oh, wow.
So the my country, my earth sort of thing, right? So that was, I think, my favorite scene because it actually gives you a very different perspective, and not just the perspective of how the movie changes, but how the entire thing changes because of one person. Without, again, this violence and non-violence piece comes into play, that it
Hmm.
not always guns that can change the world. Something like this could change the world.
Yeah, that I like that was the most impactful scene for me, like that
Yeah.
moved me the most. I was like, this scene is like amazing. As soon as he started singing, I was like, that's crazy. And during that whole sequence, like I was like struggling at which one of these two like characters do I like more? Because
You're
like
right.
it's so hard. Like one you feel like maybe is a little more closed-minded, like he's just on the track to get this girl, and the other
Mhm.
one is thinking about the big picture, but the one thinking about the big picture is then hurting the people that he cares about, and it's so hard like between those. But in that moment, like the whole movie, I was like thinking like Beam was my favorite character, but it actually switched to like Ram at that point, because I was like, he's thinking about like the long term and how he can like make a greater change, and like it seemed like such a like struggle for him, like the moment where he like pulls the chains to try to help him kneel, kind of thing, to like
Yeah.
make that happen. It's like he's
And
trying
it spared
so
his life.
hard,
Yeah.
yeah, like not to hurt him, but he has to like achieve what he
Okay.
wants.
I have a question. If you're Ram, would you like punish your best friend for the big picture, or no? Or you would find another way to get the weapons?
I think it's a bit of a
Would
difficult
you?
situation, right?
Yeah, but would you
I
like
mean,
just
it's a
like
decision you
betray
have to
your
make at that
friend?
point. I think a piece of it is like being honest with each other. The communication part was missing. Each other didn't know what the other's plan was, but they were such good friends. So now it's a tough thing to answer, but there were many revolutionary people that actually gave up on their families and hurt their friends for the purpose of betterment of the country itself. I mean, this happened. So in my case, I don't know, I'm an emotional person. I'm probably like, you know what, maybe we'll make friends and we'll run away and then come back and do it later, sort of thing. I'm
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And you
think
control? Could
I
you?
think it was so ingrained in him, like watching, like having
right.
to shoot his dad, and watching I guess that was his little brother that got shot. Like it was so ingrained in him that nothing could stand in his way of
Right.
even like a best friend. Like I don't know
Yeah.
any friend that's gonna keep me from going back and saving my family. So I
I
think,
guess it was one of those
yeah,
things, like, you're very, very focused and goal oriented at that point because now it's a bigger picture versus one or two people, you
So
know?
you
exactly.
control saying that you would punish your friend.
Absolutely. You if it was
Oh,
if I had to beat Riley and Sarah to save my mom, come on.
oh my
Oh,
I'd be
god.
like, lady, drop me that whip. Let's go.
whoa.
You can do it to save
Yeah,
Shirley.
she
Or
was
a
my
guy.
Okay.
least favorite character. I had a lot of favorite characters, but the least favorite was that lady. I don't even know what her
Oh my god, yeah.
I mean,
Cassandra
The wife.
Wilson, played by Allison Duty. She was just a mean
so
SOB in that movie.
I have a question. Do you hate her character because of the character she plays, or do you hate her because how she played it?
I
No,
just think
she
just the
played it
character.
well.
She played it great, yeah.
Yeah,
But because
you
of the
couldn't
character
believe
and
her being mean. So yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I guess in that way she did justice to the character that her role was
Exactly.
to make you hate her, and she did. So,
Exactly.
fantastic, right?
Like
yeah,
the
that's a sign
actor,
of
the
a great
character.
actor. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
great actor. And
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 you would betray?
The thing is, like, I feel like you need to have that motivation from the start. Like, he as a child had something. I feel like I don't have anything like that's happened to me that strongly that would lead me to that. But I can understand where, like, if you lost like your whole family or everything, then like you're kind of willing to push even more. So like I think if there was something that motivated me that level, then I could understand it happening.
I
But I
would
think
find another
his
way.
motivation is not about losing his family. So I think there's a
Yeah,
little bit of I think everybody watches a movie and gets different emotion to it, right? And differently
yeah,
look at perspective wise. I mean, if I'm looking at it, my perspective is like he's not fighting for that goal because he lost the family. He's
exactly.
fighting for the goal because that's the way he can help the whole country,
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
every village. It's no longer personal about losing his family. I mean, obviously that was something that kick-started the whole thing, but even his father was in the same path of getting those guns to fight the Britishers at that point. It's about independence of the country versus one or two families. That's what they were
Yeah.
looking. The Ram's father and Ram were looking at the bigger picture versus of just a small group, whereas Beam, on the other hand, he only knows a small group. His job was to protect that group. That's all he knew. So it was different perspectives, but they all were very goal oriented for what they were looking at. That's how I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
so, Addie, would you have changed anything about this movie, like, or the experience you had with the movie?
I think the movie, the story wise, is it's one of those fictional movies, not just fictional, but it's also supposed to be that kind of big movie, punchline kind of thing. But there are a couple pieces like a little. Oh, come on, man! You couldn't walk now. All of a sudden, you're jumping and doing all these and fighting. At least
Thank
maybe,
you.
see, you hid for a couple days and recovered, sort of thing. And let's put that little thing so I don't feel like, okay, what the hell? I know this is a movie.
Yeah.
Too much, man. So hide them for a couple days in the forest and they recover and then they start fighting, which is perfectly fine. So small things like that, but I think it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. There was the one scene after like all the battle, and then there's like the motorcycle in the forest, and Beam just like kicks it with his foot, and then he's like holding the motorcycle with one hand. I was just like, okay. Like,
Oh, you'll see a lot of those in Indian movies. Be ready. They're supposed to have like superhuman strength to do random stunts.
Also,
it's
it's
crazy.
also common in Indian movies that they overcome like things like that easy because they were betraying each other all the time. But it's like, all right, you just move to the next one. And I don't know, I feel like you really like process what happened and you're already like in another trouble, you know? So yeah, that thing
Yeah.
like shocked me. Like same thing that they were like superheroes. They were anti-natural. Like they, I don't know, immortal
Hmm.
because they
Oh,
got stabbed everywhere
superhuman.
and they didn't
Yeah.
break a bone. It's like, and also the other thing that I would like have like change or like improve. I wouldn't change. Improve like the dubbing people that did the dubbing in
Mhm.
English, please. Like yes, I would change that. Like
Yeah, I
the
think they were trying
transformation
to
is
kind of
amazing.
show that, Ram is like speaking proper English, but Beam is from the village, so he can't really speak proper English. So, like, yeah, when you dub it, it's very hard to capture those things because the
Yeah.
dialects are different. Even in one language, there's so many different dialects. So that's what they're capturing in the original language, which really doesn't translate when you dub it into a different language. So
Yeah.
that's a challenge
But at
always.
least I think you can. I think you could. They could have done that.
Slightly
Maybe
better, at
we
least.
don't have the accent. I don't know. Yes. Yes.
Are sequels a big thing in these type movies?
Have you
They
seen
they have
Bahubali?
two.
No, no.
So that has a sequel. I mean, sequels, prequels, all of these will be coming, but I don't know if they'll make another sequel to this
I
one.
never knew of that because there is a sequel in the works.
Oh, wow.
This is
So
Rajmouli. It's never
the
like the
yeah,
one thing.
the director says his co-writer and father V Vijayendra Prasad. It's called. I don't know the
Prasad.
name. Prasad has a great idea for the follow-up.
Ah,
So yeah, if they had never listened that, I would say like, please, we're in the 2023. We want female role, like lead female roles, because I think like the actresses here, they're like kind of like a so like little space.
right, right.
It was.
This movie, yes,
I mean,
but
I understand because it's 1920s. We know how it worked, but
not
I don't
really.
know.
Not
Well,
really.
we don't know, but we assume with what
No, no, I think this movie
we
was
read.
focusing on the two characters that they were trying to portray, right? These two
Yeah,
specific characters.
I do. I
But
understand. I understand.
he's done movies like Bahubali and all the previous movies. The female characters were just as strong. So
Cool.
when you see that, so it's
Nice.
not even in the 1920s we had very very strong women who fought huge battles and wars. So we have those in real life. So
Perfect.
yeah, I think they were just focusing about these two specific characters, their friendship, their turmoil of betraying each other, sort of thing. So maybe that's the reason there weren't any
Mhm.
strong female care leads in this one. But hopefully, to your point, next one will have one of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we have to wrap it up. Addie, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't even need to ask if we're recommending this movie because
Ah,
everyone I've ever spoken to has loved this movie. So we're just gonna all say yes. We recommend it to everyone.
Strongly.
Riley and Sarah, do you have any shout outs of the week?
Yes, but before the shout out, I have one more thing that I wanted to mention, and it's about the title, RRR, because
Yes.
that actually wasn't like the what is it, Rise, Roar, Revolt. That actually wasn't the intention behind the three R's. It was the names of the director and the two lead actors.
Yes.
So that's where like the tentative title started, and then they ended up leaving it as that. And there's also the Telugu translation, which all those letters also start with R. But I just
yeah,
thought that was interesting that it was like based on their names. And the other thing about it was that the director wanted a title that could be like easily
Universal.
like universal across languages. So
yeah.
like all the RRR everyone could say and everything. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I had to say. And then my shout out is gonna go to the beard over the mustache for Ron. Both hairs are approved, but the
The
beard,
longer, better.
they're both good. But the beard over the mustache was.
That's all right.
I have to send you pictures of some other good-looking people around. I will send you those.
Okay.
We have quite a few.
This one. Okay. My shout out is for the people that in Spain that listen us. Gracias. Gracias.
Thank you, Spain. Thank you.
Thank you,
Addie, do
Spain.
you have a shout out?
And I shout out to you guys for having me on your podcast today. Much appreciated. This is my first one, so now I'm like ready. I'm ready, I guess, for the world. But thank you so much for having me. It was fantastic.
Thank you. And to still Riley's shout
Spain.
out to Ram's hair because I'm so jealous of that guy. That hair was just beautiful, man. I'm sorry.
Right?
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. I wanted to mention that if you like us, please give us a follow, a comment, something just to let us know that you're out there and you care, because we love you guys and we care. And we will see you next week when we are doing Air starring Matt Damon.
Ooh.
All right. So see you next week, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.